10. Maya Millete. Maya Millete was last seen on the night of January 7th in her home in Chula Vista. 9 months after she disappeared, her husband Larry was arrested for her murder. However, during his court hearing, he entered a plea of not guilty in the first-degree murder of his wife. Whether he truly killed Maya or not has yet to be proven by the court. It all started when Maya wanted a divorce in 2020. She had a meeting scheduled with a divorce lawyer right before she suddenly vanished. Friends described the couple's marriage as toxic. District Attorney Summer Stefan, who's working to get Larry locked behind bars, also said he was kind of crazy. He once contacted a spellcaster, a person claiming to have magical abilities, to force Maya into staying in the relationship. Larry asked the magician to make Maya have an accident, preferably with broken bones involved. That way, she would have to stay home with him. This is the kind of person Larry was. Maya sent a message to her family on the night of the 7th, 4 hours before her phone activity stopped at around 1 o'clock in the morning. At the same time, Larry could be seen on surveillance footage backing up the family car to a blind spot on the camera. Larry then left his home the next day at around 6:45 in the morning, but didn't bring his phone or his 2 older children. He only brought their 4-year-old. He was gone for 11 hours and 21 minutes. When the police asked where he went, he claimed they were at Solana Beach. It was actually pretty sneaky on Larry's part. The cops had no way to track him and no way to confirm he was or wasn't at the beach. Still, they're almost positive he was spending those 11 hours getting rid of his wife's body. They just can't prove it yet. 9. Thomas Howe. On January 22, 2022, Thomas Howe from Chicago crashed his vehicle on Interstate 94. Other than that, nobody is entirely sure what happened to him. He was driving to his family's home in Antioch when he smashed into another vehicle near mile marker 16. This is according to the Antioch Police Department. A witness saw Thomas walk away from the scene of the accident, allegedly heading in the direction of the Old School Forest Preserve. This was the last confirmed sighting of Thomas. Nobody's seen him since, with the only clue he left behind being his cell phone about a quarter mile into the forest preserve, ditched in the dirt. There is currently a reward of $10,000 for anyone who can give the police information that directly leads to Thomas's discovery. His parents are pleading for help, and investigators have so far sifted through over 2,000 tips from across the country. One of the tips was from someone who claimed to see Thomas in Las Vegas, but this was never confirmed. What's really awful is that none of this even makes sense. Thomas was on his way to see his family. He was extremely close with them and wouldn't have just left his parents wondering what happened. And then there's the deal with the phone. Why would he ditch his phone after walking into the woods, even if he was rattled from the accident? He wasn't in any trouble, he hadn't done anything wrong, yet he seemingly fled into the forest and disappeared. Not even the police canine units were able to get his scent. 8. Jake CEFOLIA. Jake CEFOLIA went missing at the beginning of August 2021. In the years prior to his disappearance, he was living the lifestyle everybody dreamed of. He traveled around the world as a top executive at United Airlines. He was the senior vice president of worldwide sales. In other words, Jake was filthy rich. He spent a lot of his time living the extreme bachelor life in places like Hong Kong, London, and Singapore. According to police reports, their investigation also showed that he was a serial dater. He was meeting girls on Bumble in Chicago, San Francisco, California, and Honolulu. But here's where things get strange. The very last purchase he made on his credit card was at a gas station in Illinois, not far from his house in Elmhurst. A video from the gas station showed him wearing hiking boots, cargo shorts, and a baseball cap. His car was seen on a traffic camera at 9:30 that morning, and then he vanished. The day before, the Elmhurst police had showed up at his house with a search warrant to collect evidence, but the police have declined to say what they were investigating, and Jake was never charged with a crime. He seems to have run away, but it's been over a year and he hasn't resurfaced yet. The police did find his car. It was parked in the DuPage County Forest Preserve. Officers used bloodhounds to track his scent, but lost him 20 yards into the woods. Nobody has any idea where he went. 7. Tatum Morell. Last summer, Tatum Morell walked into the Montana mountains by herself and never came out. At 23 years old, she was determined to climb all 5 mountain peaks solo and return after 5 days. However, after stopping briefly at the Red Lodge to prepare for her journey, she vanished. She made her final contact with her family on July 1st at the lodge, but after 5 days had gone by and her family never heard from her again, they feared the worst. Now, after a desperate search attempt, no trace of her has been found, and she's been assumed dead. K-9 units, fire rescue, helicopters, everyone was out searching. They looked across mountain peaks, lakes, and anywhere the West Fork trailhead may have taken Tatum Morell. They never found her. Sadly, they had to give up the search. As terrible as it is, they can't put all their resources into combing every last inch of the Montana wilderness. It's just not possible. Some of these peaks are 12,000 feet tall, with dense forest going on for hundreds of miles. She could be anywhere, or she could be nowhere. The only solace Tatum's family has is how she perished. If she did indeed die, she died doing something she loved, exploring the great outdoors. 6. NOEMI Bolivar. NOEMI Bolivar might still be alive. At least that's what the private investigator looking for her has told news sources. She's been missing for over a year, but there's still hope. On February 11, 2021, NOEMI initiated a conversation with 3 of her friends through text messages and then ghosted them. She started the conversations, made no reply, and then shut her phone off. As a member of the Mormon community in Hollywood, this was a pretty big shock for her family and friends. They almost immediately assumed the worst, but Joe Carrillo says there may be nothing wrong. Joe was hired independently of the police to track NOEMI down. Through his investigation, he learned the young girl was struggling with her faith. She no longer believed in what her fellow Mormons believed in and was looking to abandon the church. He believes she may have simply cut ties with everyone she knew, got on a bus, and vanished. Nonetheless, Joe is still searching. He won't rest until he finds proof of life, or in the worst case, proof of death. NOEMI was last seen getting on a bus on Sheridan Street, then going to the Ann Kolb Nature Center. After that, her trail is cold as ice. Do you think NOEMI just ran away, or do you suspect something more sinister? Let us know what you think in the comments below, and don't forget to hit subscribe if you haven't already. 5. SHAELENE Bell. SHAELENE Keeler Bell was missing for 4 months before her body was finally discovered in June of 2021. She went missing from the Canadian city of Chilliwack, near Vancouver. At only 23 years old, SHAELENE was a fairly normal woman. She had her own apartment in the city, she had 2 young kids, and she was well liked by her friends. But on January 30th, she was last seen exiting her apartment with an unknown destination. 2 days later, her Hyundai Tucson was found completely abandoned. 4 months after that, the police found her corpse in the Fraser River near Coquitlam, also near Vancouver. Nobody knows how she got there or what happened in the 120 days between. According to what the Chilliwack Royal Canadian Mounted Police have said, their investigation is over. They found nothing to suggest criminal involvement. However, the British Columbia Coroner's Office is now conducting their own investigation to see how she died and when. Even though the police say there's nothing here to see, that doesn't mean there wasn't foul play. They could be lying. The thing is that Shaelene's body was found just after 2 other women were discovered dead in the Hope area. 2 other women who had gone missing without a trace. And on May 26th, a former missing woman was discovered dead on the side of a highway near the town of Hope. That's 4 dead women in as many years, all near Vancouver. And yet the police are saying there's nothing to worry about. 4. Anne-Marie CUSUMANO. Anne-Marie CUSUMANO ceased all contact with her family on Long Island on December 17, 2021. Police in Brooklyn saw her 10 days later at a hotel. But after she left the hotel, she vanished into obscurity and hasn't been seen since. The reason the police knew she was at the hotel is because they had gotten a disturbance call. Anne-Marie was there with another woman and a man, all of whom were arguing. She left the hotel, also leaving behind personal belongings like her identification. At the same time, her estranged husband was being arrested in Queens for beating and robbing Anne-Marie. About 1 hour before all this was happening, her parents officially reported her missing to the police because they hadn't spoken to her in 10 days. She was roughly 10 weeks pregnant. It's been a month now and there's still no sign of her. We don't know if she's hiding on purpose or if she's even still in New York City. 3. Christopher WOITEL. Christopher WOITEL is the man who walked into his home and never walked out again. It happened on January 8, 2022. Christopher was caught by the security camera outside his apartment building walking into his residence. That same security camera never caught him walking out. He contacted his mother on January 9th, the day after he was seen in his house. But 4 days later, on January 13th, she reported him missing because she hadn't heard from him. Naturally, the police went to Christopher's apartment and searched it, but they didn't find anything. Nothing out of place or disturbed. The only way he could have gotten out was through the back door, but the camera didn't catch him leaving. He somehow pulled a Houdini and disappeared into thin air. It's been over a month now and he still hasn't been found. The case gets even stranger still, or maybe I should say scarier. According to Christopher's sister, he was an extremely generous man. He often extended his home to people in need of a place to sleep. This sometimes meant people living on the streets. But as of yet, police haven't been able to find any vagrants who could have been capable of vanishing a man out of his house. Plus, there was no sign of a struggle in the apartment and no blood. It's totally baffling, and neither the private investigator hired by the family nor the police have been able to make any headway. 2. Kevin Winters. Kevin Winters went to a First Hawaiian Bank ATM in Kahana on September 3, 2021. It was 6:45 in the morning and he deposited a check from his mother. After that, nobody has any idea what happened to him. Kevin moved to Maui from Michigan in 2007 out of the blue. He had nothing but a single bag and dreams of living in paradise. He fell in love with the island, got a job, and lived at a hostel in downtown Wailuku. He was single, he had no family near him, but he made regular calls to his mother almost every single day. On September 2nd, those calls ended. Things had taken a turn for Kevin just before his vanishing. According to his colleagues at the North Shore Hostel, where he traded labor for a free room, he had turned into a bit of a thief. He had to move out on September 1st after he got caught stealing somebody's cell phone. It was insanely out of character, especially since Kevin had worked there for 13 years. His colleagues said they had seen him rummage through the fridge before and take other people's food, but never something like a cell phone. And it also didn't make sense because Kevin wasn't totally broke. He still had a fair chunk of change in his bank account. He had no logical reason for taking somebody's phone. It's a weird story with no ending. Whatever happened to Kevin when he walked away from that ATM in September, we still don't know. 1. Mary Johnson. Mary Johnson and her husband packed up their stuff and abruptly moved out of Mary's sister's house. They went to the town of Marysville in Washington. Mary didn't speak with her family very often, and she didn't really reply to text messages from her sister. You might say she and her husband were a couple of loners. But one day, Mary's husband reached out to her sister to say that he hadn't seen Mary in weeks. The last time he saw her was in November of 2020, 30 days before Christmas. She was last seen walking down a road in western Washington, apparently to visit some friends in a nearby town, but she never showed up. Just over 1 year later, Mary is still missing. All we know about the case is that she and her husband had been having trouble. She had been mostly staying with a small group of friends, only returning to her house sometimes to shower and pick up her mail. When she set out walking, it was because the individual who was supposed to give her a ride never showed up. But sometime during that walk, somebody did give her a ride. The police saw that her cell phone connected to a different tower too far away for her to have reached by foot. But they don't know exactly where or how. Right now, it's pretty clear she got into somebody's vehicle she really shouldn't have. But because no body has been found, the police haven't been able to launch a murder investigation. Do you have any theories for these tragic missing person cases? Let us know in the comments below, and be sure to hit that subscribe button. Thanks for watching, and come back soon for more shocking crime videos. Bye.